question for you is, there's a lot of confusion about your last name. Is it Meacham? Is it Machin? What is your last name?
It's Machin. It's pronounced like the month May and the thing on your face, chin. Machin. And it's spelled machine without the E. M-A-C-H-I-N.
Okay. So Jay, what is it about being the head coach of the first, hometown USA Masters team that has, to this point, been your biggest challenge?
I think that with it being a new process, I think there has been some question as to how we go about forming the team, what the individual requirements are for players to be eligible for the team, and I think that has been what everybody's main concern has been. I think that some people were lost on the knowledge that you had to be at that very first tryout to be able to play, and I think they wanted to come on later, and they felt maybe that was it. But I think trying to explain how we arrived at this 25-man roster, because it was a new, uncharted circumstance, has been the biggest challenge to try to get everyone to understand, the building of the team.
Sure. Do you get asked that a lot about the process? Do you get asked that a lot?
I think more so in the beginning. Yeah. I think that after the first tryout, I think there was some sentiment that there would be a second one, or that some misunderstanding. And in honesty, it was made clear. It wasn't a circumstance where people were surprised. They weren't promised anything beyond that. They were pretty much told that they had to be there to be eligible. So they so in the beginning, yes, to answer your question, yes, in the beginning, not so much as we went on. I mean, now kind of people got it. You still get a little question here and there, but in the beginning, they were really of the thought that it would be the old way of doing things, that we would eventually ignore that, stray away from what we had committed to the people.
Right. Okay. So in light of that, how happy are you with the way that process was handled? And again, asking for your honesty here. People want your honesty.
Yeah. The overall process for a first time, I think, is satisfactory. I think that the staff was put into place probably slightly later than they would have been, probably at maybe a couple months after a 2-year process. I think going into the next process, there'll be some things that can be tinkered with. But I will tell you this, as far as an absolute process to begin, based on where we came from, I am very pleased with it. Listen, I'll be honest, would I have liked other people to have an opportunity to try out for the team, or other people to get the chance to show their skills from other places, and guys that I know that couldn't? Yes, of course.
Right.
But the overall process for the first time is somewhat experimental. Will it be tinkered with? Sure. The powers that be, the people who are above me in this, are very, very smart people, and they will have, if it's the same group coming back, they will certainly have a different philosophy, not based on necessity, but based on what time will allow.
Right.
So the process itself, I think it's solid. I would not be in any way straying away from what we've done, and I think it can only get better, and I think the base of it is excellent.
Chance to look at any of the previous Masters from 2012, any of that video, or do you not even care about that because that's old history?
You know what? I think that it can be useful in some respects. I think that this Masters, based on the split in the federations and such, which is certainly a topic for another day, may not allow me to scout a team, because we don't know exactly what's going to go on. And I think that the USA team was particularly compromised. I have not looked at any direct video to answer your question, but I have gathered some information from guys who participated, and I've spoken to them about the competition / necessity, of us, what we'd have to do, in other words, and I think that I've gotten some valuable input. As we get closer, I may take a look. Again, I'm familiar with the rink in Tampa, which is an advantage. I've coached on it. I've also played on it. So, some of that video might be to look at a rink that we might potentially play on. Obviously, the ball hockey rules are basically, but I will probably take that opportunity at some point. I have not to this point, but more importantly, in my communications with some of the guys, I've tried to get some answers of the experience. We, as the U.S., have only had the one experience a couple of years back, and listen, there's a very enthusiastic group of guys who went there, who said, listen, if we had the team we had now, we would certainly be in a position to be successful. So I'm going to go with that to start, and I will, dabble a little more in as we go along.
Okay. The Europeans in particular, Czechs and Slovaks, right? They play a different style than the United States. Are you concerned at all about style matchups in this tournament?
I think that I'm a fight fan, and I think that styles make fights, and I think that you have to be concerned.
Yeah.
I think any good game you watch with two teams that play a completely different style, I think if you have any experience in this, you know that the team that imposes their will, makes the other team play their game, is of the benefit. I mean, that's coaching 101. We have a way in which we want to play. We have a way in which we want to practice. We have a way in which we want to prepare. And if we go out there and play opposite of that, we're not going to be at our best. But if we're able to play that way and we're getting the most out of our people that way, certainly we will be. So I would say to you, we will have many different things we will do to combat what are their strengths, and it will come down if we're able to or not. So am I concerned? It's hard to be concerned when you feel like if you institute and execute your plan. Will I be concerned if we're playing their style midway through a big game? I'll be concerned because we'll be getting our tail whipped most likely. So I think that's more of a situation and circumstance that you have to cross when you come. But I certainly, the best way I can answer your question is that we certainly expect to play our style, and if we don't, that could be cause for concern.
Right. Okay. How happy are you with your guy?
In the overall roster, I will admit I have some concerns, but I do think that in the next X amount of months as we lead up to this, I'm going to be real curious to see what their level of commitment is beyond the relief of being picked. So the best answer I can give you for your question is I like the roster, but I'm concerned of how we get from here to where we're going to go. And I think my answer would be incomplete at this time. I think I have the makings of it, but that's irrelevant. I could probably take, there's 25 other guys in the United States who could represent this country at that level quite well. So there are guys you can interchange. I think the roster itself is loaded, but I think that's not going to determine the final outcome of this. I think
what do you think will?
Well, listen, how bad do you want it? And how bad do you want it doesn't arrive on September 18th. How bad do you want it arrives from the day you were selected till September 18th. Nothing's going to be decided on September 18th. They're going to play the games then, but the games are going to be decided long before September 18th, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
And that is this. I look around this weekend and I see who's here. And I'm curious to see how they play, and I'm a little more present this weekend for many different reasons, besides the commitment I have for the weekend. And I see who's not here, and I'll be interested to speak to some of them after. I'll make it my business to give an individual call to everybody, first and foremost, to see how they're doing. Obviously there's a personal connection you have with guys that you're with. Secondly, to see if they're injured, because maybe that's the reason. And then third, if they're doing well and they're not injured, then I'd like to know why they didn't find their way here. And if some may have a legitimate reason, commitments with family or whatnot. But I think after this weekend, I'll start to put attention. I'm one of them guys who 6 months, 9 months is a long time. You got to kind of condense it. As we get closer to these tryouts, I'm going to expect people to go out of their way to find a game to get into. And then I'll be able to give you a complete answer probably by summertime. Then I'll say to you, I was happy with it when we started, but now I'm a little concerned, or I was happy with it when we started, and now I'm even more happy.
Right. If someone gets injured, what is the plan for that person to either be replaced if they're totally out for the tournament, or are you just going to shorten the roster?
I would say at this point, barring a rash of injuries or a rash of unforeseen developments, we would probably stick with the 25-man roster we've selected. I think built into that, we were of the opinion that some guys may have circumstances that come up. Me general manager talked at length about that, and we've actually discussed it more recently. We haven't seen this guy or that guy, so I would say we would stick to the roster we have, go with a shorter roster, and again, listen, if you lose 10 guys, you're going to have to find somebody. But if you lost 1 or 2, I don't believe. And again, everything is up for debate, but I would think we're pretty good where we are.
Okay. And when you get these guys together for the first time, what are you going to be looking at from a coaching perspective?
You know, my style goes back many years. There's a lot more technical coaching now. The game has changed. Obviously, you have to change with it.
Yeah.
But I think my strength is motivation, and what I'm trying to relate to them more than anything else is you know, want it more. Number one, make sure you're not cheating yourself on your conditioning. Understand what's at stake. Realize the opportunity. And if I may, I don't want to sound overly dramatic, but the whole country's watching.
They are.
We took a different approach, and there's probably a few people, not to name anyone specifically, who probably don't want USA to fail, but wouldn't mind to see this process fail, because it would give credence and credibility to their thought that it was incorrect. So I think that they have to understand the process. They have to respect the commitment that they've made, of course. But they also have to understand the commitment that's been made to them. Because listen, there's always people that think they're better. There's always people that might prove to be better. But this is a commitment both ways, and I think that they have to really understand that. And you have to give people an opportunity. If they don't understand that, then maybe they should reconsider what they want to do.
The Canadians, would you say that they're one of the favorites of the tournament?
Oh, I think the Canadians are always a prominent player on the world stage. I think that goes without saying. Listen, they may be the favorite. You know, we certainly can't concern ourselves with any one individual group. If you have any experience in this, you be careful who you wish for, you be careful who you anoint, you be careful who you fear, because you have to fear everyone and wish for no one. But certainly they're a favorite. I mean, I don't.
Well, the reason I asked that is I did an interview with George Gortzos, and Gortzos talked about it would be healthy for the sport if there was more of a rivalry between Canada and the U.S. And he said, since he's from Canada, right, that has been not a heavy focus in Canada, but it's something that they've talked about. You know, we want to beat the Americans. I mean,
I think for a few different reasons, they're probably a little ahead of us in this. First and foremost, we haven't had a gentleman such as Jamie Cook and Chris Banks who are really spearheading this and leading it the way we want it to go. To the people who have done it in the past, listen, our senior team had great success and really made broke some ground. They beat Canada in 2009. I mean, so that we've had some success, but I think the structure speaks to a rivalry. I think when you have the same people at the top, so I think we've kind of been helter-skelter every other year, and they're not. They're extremely organized. So to his comment, listen, do we want a rivalry with Canada? I'll have a rivalry with whoever is in front of us, but are they the team to beat? If they think they are, I guess so. But we can't individually put too much emphasis on one. You know, there's Slovaks. There's all kinds of teams that are going to be in front of us. But I'd love to have a rivalry with Canada. But you know what? Playing every 2 years and not necessarily running into each other, it's hard to form that. But if we play a couple of overtime games in the next, that happens, kind of before your eyes. But listen, we'll welcome all opponents. I'm sure that's the attitude of our players and our country. And again, we like a good, hard-fought game. And if we have to play and beat Canada in the finals, so be it.
All right. You seem to be big on emphasizing that this is a commitment.
Until you get 25 men in the room or X amount of men in the room and look them in the eye, I think that's the first stress, and I think also that's a byproduct of what we have not seen in the past. I think people were committed to the weekend, or committed to that game, or committed to that day. But I don't know if they were committed, 9 months or 10 months or a year. So no, I haven't seen a lack of commitment. But again, every man defines commitment. Listen, when you made this team, you breathe a sigh of relief because the process was unprecedented. The competition for positions were plentiful, and again, listen, we're smart enough to know there's 10 or 11 guys who probably were pretty confident in their ability, and we didn't make any predeterminations, but we had in the back of our minds guys that had played at the top level for X amount of years leading up to this, and now at this level we're the top players in the country. But
yeah, absolutely.
But again, you can't rest on that. So when I say commitment, I don't mean that people aren't committed to it in a sense where they don't think it's right and they want to do it, but they have to realize that 100% has to go into from where they are to where they're trying to get, and that's
right.
maybe the best way I can put it.
When you look at the roster, what do you see are some of the strengths?
Well, we have
besides experience, obviously,
well,
for a Masters team.
which most team will.
Yes.
I would say to you that we have guys with you know, big great pedigree. They've played at high levels. They've won a lot of big tournaments, and they still continue to play at a competitive level with guys much younger their age. So they're still guys who are fresh for the fight. That's important. I think we have a nice mix. We have we're very strong down the middle. You know, centers, defense, and goaltending. And obviously, we have versatility. We got guys who can play both defense and offense. We have some size. I think that we have, and through our selection, naturally, this was our goal. Right. We wanted to have, you know, a little bit of everything. Right. You know, so I think strength-wise, I think the best thing we like is defensively, we feel like we have a real good, strong middle. Goaltending, defense, centerman, and you know, and obviously good forecheck and wings, because obviously offense is part of defense.
It is. Now, when you coach people at this level, it's a lot different than coaching the juniors team or even the men's team, right, or women's team, because these are Masters level players. They've been there before, as you said. They've got the experience. They have the pedigree. What can you bring to the table as a coach besides the motivation to help these guys achieve the goal of winning the gold medal?
Well, I think this has always been a philosophy of mine, and I don't think coaches necessarily win. I think you see a lot of different opinions on what a coach is good for. Some people, quite frankly, don't think a coach is needed at all. In this particular instance, I think at a Team USA level, you know, when you're going to play multiple countries, I think motivation is number one, which I still believe. Beyond that, I just think you want 25 guys to know that you're treating them all equal. Right. And at that moment, it doesn't matter if you know, you're my best friend, you're my cousin, you know, you're a guy I don't like. None of that is relevant. They have confidence in a guy who they know you have to treat guy number 25, number 21. You know, people often say first line, second line, third line. In my system, the line is by the name of the center, because X's line in game one could be better than Y's line in game two. Right. Obviously, there are go-to guys. We all know that, but I think equal treatment, and you know, if I'm going to be a nasty, miserable guy, I'm going to be nasty and miserable to all of them, and if I'm going to be happy-go-lucky, I'm going to do that. Nobody should ever be meant to feel that they're any less important, because you may have to call that guy's name, and that, to me, if you ask the guys who played for me over the years, they would tell you, no matter who they were, they want to win, and they feel that I do everything in my power to put them in a position to win.
Right, right. Your assistant coaching staff, has it been finalized?
Jamie, Des Dieter, Rock Steffen, those are you know, veteran guys from different places they've seen many times. Rock's a guy out of New Jersey. He's had experience with some of these older guys. Des has played with some of the older guys. Right. You know, basically, and again, Jamie's handled that pretty much himself. You know, they're when we do camps and stuff, they'll play a prominent role. But those guys are veteran guys who probably, when I'm a little bit flustered, as us coaches do get sometimes,
yes,
for whatever reason, they can come over to me and pat me on the back. And also, you know, whatever circumstances, there are also guys who have vast head coaching experience, and if I should have a heart attack in the middle of a close game, they can adequately take over. So that is, you know, where we're at. Obviously, there's some staff beyond that, but on the bench, that's who you know, will be my trusted lieutenants.
Right. So speaking of heart attacks, let's be frank. How much pressure do you feel?
Oh, I'll tell you. It's a good question, but this to me, you know, I'm not going to get dramatic with you, but this is a recreational activity. Certainly there's a lot at stake. Certainly whenever you put USA on, you have to be cognizant and aware of the importance of that and how much it means to you. And it should bring you great pride. Beyond that, to do something you love and do it, but you have to put it into perspective.
Hang on.
You have to put it into perspective. Pressure is trying to pay your bills every day or bring up your children. This will be in the moment. There'll be a lot of pressure, you know.
Yeah.
But I think if you do this long enough, when you're actually in the moment, you just kind of enjoy it. So to answer your question, not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot.
A whole lot of pride and a whole lot of appreciation to the people who gave me the opportunity, and certainly to win would be the greatest accomplishment of my very fortunate deck hockey, ball hockey career. But I think you have to keep it into perspective and realize that for the few moments out there, it's life and death. But
it is, absolutely.
In the real life, though, we're just very, very fortunate for the opportunity more than anything else. We'll embrace that first, and we'll build on that.
Let's talk about captains and the assistant captains for a second. Everybody seems happy with who was selected. Can you talk about how was that process developed, who was involved with it, and what do you expect from Mr. Sillo, Mr. Bernash, and the other captains?
Well, I can tell you this. First and foremost, I think it's very important that you have leaders that are trusted. And I think what you find in a team like this, most of the guys are top-level players to begin with. So at some point or another, they've captained their teams.
Absolutely.
On a club level, on a tournament level, on a league level, whatever. Most of these guys are top players. So they've captained their teams. So I would say to you, they absolutely have that leadership quality. So you weren't going to make necessarily a bad choice. Now, some guys are more prominent in the world order, if you will, based on international experience.
Sure.
But we have, guys who've captained multiple national championship teams, North American championship teams, guys who've been captains on traveling, world teams. So what went into that? First and foremost, the players have to have an opinion. Not necessarily a say, although not to be cute, there's a fine line between an opinion and a say.
Absolutely.
We did survey what their thought was. Our final selection was not based on that, but it's certainly, listen, you got to have the trust of your players.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you need a gentleman out there who's going to represent the country, the team, and the situation well. And there might be a guy who can't base that on necessarily skill, although a lot of times it is, but you can't necessarily base it on skill. I would say our selection of Anthony Sillo as our captain was basically a no-brainer. He's been my captain for many years, and again, people may say, Jay's captain, that thing. I personally have to be comfortable with my ring captain.
Absolutely, and Anthony's a winner. Everyone knows that.
And he also is a guy who we surveyed X amount of guys on the team, and believe me when I tell you, he was a pretty obvious choice.
Right.
You go from there. There's so many guys, whether it's Bernis or Zambon. This is a guy who, you got a defenseman there, a guy who has a little bit of toughness, a guy whose voice can be heard in the room. But I could sit here and name 7 more guys off the top of my head, and then 7 more after I thought about it for a second, and then the rest of them. They all could have. Tommy Gallagher has captained 5 national championship teams. What more do you want? There's guys who are less prominent, but they're no worse a leader.
So let me ask you this then: is one of your jobs going to be dealing with the too many cooks in the kitchen syndrome?
Well, I will tell you there's a lot of egos in a room when you gather a great team. I've had the great benefit of coaching one of the great teams of all time back in '97-'98, the Long Island Shock, which
many people consider that the best team of all time. Yeah,
it is a candidate. That was a team where you would imagine, based on that back then it was a deck hockey team, but it was 10 forwards, 6D, and a goaltender or 2, and that's 18 guys, which is a maximum roster. And I assure you, for that team, there's probably, again, depends on who you are to look at it. There's probably 10 Hall of Famers on that team, and then secondary guys, and there's guys that were, and they were all at the top of their game at that time. So to your point, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But it's also a potential problem. You only have 5 guys out there at a time, and you have 15 other guys who want to be out there. So you have to address that. Do I think it's going to be a problem ultimately? No. I think that speaks to the trust. A good amount of these guys will have played with me for a long, long time. They have self-accountability. Self-accountability is important because they don't expect to be out there if they don't deserve to be. And I think that we'll try everything, and everyone will get their ample opportunity. And you may be a great player, but you may not be great for that 4 days. And you may be a guy we expected less of, but we may get much more out of you that 4 days. And listen, opportunity is going to knock. Those are long games.
Right.
And, and listen, if there's an injury, it's next guy up. I think that'll take care of itself. But that'll take care of itself at the camps leading up to it, and then at the tournament for whatever changes. So do I worry about it? No. Am I aware of it? Yes.
Right. One of the reasons you've won in the past is because you know who the guys are that can win. And a byproduct of that is those guys tend to become Jay's guys. And so a criticism of yours has been that you play Jay's guys. In terms of the criticism of it, do you think it's a fair criticism, or?
I think that we're in a society where people are going to find a reason to doubt something. They're going to. Criticism is much more fun and exciting than compliment. If you look at our society as a whole, or our community of ball hockey, deck hockey, a lot of the topics that come on are tough topics, lightning topics, things where, no one says, boy, that so-and-so's a great guy. Anyone want to comment on that? So the criticism itself is, listen, is it fair? From the outside looking in, it probably is. Have I been guilty of leaving an old horse out there too long? Yeah, probably. Yeah. But listen, and I don't ever want to toot my own horn, but if I could throw one statistic at you, I'd appreciate the time to do it. When I started this in 1990, I've won a tournament or more in every year since 1990. So that means
that is impressive.
That means next year, if I win a tournament, I've already won one this year, a pretty good one. If I win a tournament, I will have won a tournament in 25 straight years. That's a quarter of a century of success. Now, is that me? No, that's players.
Right.
Is that me? No, that's a philosophy. But have any of those guys been with me for? Listen, I haven't had 25. I've had different guys. Have I trusted guys a little more? Will I tend to? I think that's natural. I think anyone who knows the history of sport, any great dynasty, any great team with great success, so it's hard to get rid of the old guys. Now, as far as the people looking at it, the result will speak to that. But I can assure you of one thing. Those very same guys, if you have a chance to speak to them, those guys who are perceived as Jay's guys, you could ask them. They've had many days, if they've been with me for a long period of time, where they weren't at the forefront. And I'm not afraid for them not to be at the forefront again. And I would ask people who have that criticism, I know it's easy to ask the guys who are perceived as my guys because they're going to swear by me because they're going to. But there's been some other guys who played on my team who maybe haven't played as much, but whose commitment was strictly to winning and staying out of the politics / controversy / what's wrong with it, what didn't go right. And they would tell you that too. At the end of a game, if I feel like there's a guy who can help us win, and I'm not as familiar with him as, say, a guy who's I've had longer, I certainly feel like I would do that, and I would ask people who have this criticism to watch me closely, and then they can decide when it's all over. I know there's a lot of people out there who are watching very closely, so hopefully they'll have the will to follow through and then make their own assumption based on the result.
Talk about the goaltenders. So Mike, Tony, and Al. Going into the camps, is it basically an open competition? How is this going to work?
I think in my mind, I have an order now. Will that be subject to change? I think so. I've had all 3 of them. I've won 2 North American championships with Mike Zambon. I've won Can-Am with Al Pater, who is V's, and Tony Caridio has won me several tournaments. He's played some of his best hockey. I probably got one of the great goaltending performances I've ever seen in a Waterbury tournament many years ago, which he'll remember well, in a final which we won in overtime. So as far as my familiarity with the three of them,
Right.
it's there. Do I have any predetermined notion? I probably have an idea right now as we sit here on March 30th. Can the camps change that? Absolutely, they can. I mean, but I don't expect that goaltending is going to ultimately be our problem.
Right.
And will I be afraid to pull someone? No. Will I be afraid to make a change midstream? No. Am I confident that we're going to have enough goaltending? Yes. I think in the final when the final result happens, we'll look back, and if it's a successful result, the goaltender will certainly be a major part of it. And if it's not a successful result, the goaltender would have been part of the solution, not the problem.
Right.
From April 1st on, I think you're going to see this thing start to hit high gear and really start to go.
Okay. Anything else that you want to cover?
I think in the end, while I am not a man who spends much time on the social media, I do know we have reached a time where there's a lot of hot button topics in this, a lot of Team USA stuff, a lot of deck hockey in general stuff, and there's a lot of people who have access to a forum, which, quite honestly, some probably shouldn't. But that being said, I think it makes our sport better, and I think all opinions, as long as they're fair, and when I say fair, I mean they're not with malice or favoritism towards the topic or the individual, are good. But I would ask that this unique process, which we finally got a chance to do with great people, and listen, even if it ever turned out not to be great, which I can't foresee, it was with the greatest intentions.
Right.
So before you're critical, take a look at what you've seen in the past that you might have been unhappy with, for good reason or bad reason. Before you're critical, allow yourself the vision to let it play out and see where it takes you. And just, listen, continue to come in, but remember something, one thing at the end of the day. It's recreational activity that most of us love. Most of us have made great memories from. Some of us have made a living at. It's amazing. And more than that, it still is Team USA. And last time I looked, everybody on that forum lives in this great country. And at least when you're done with your opinions and you're entitled to them, make sure you get your support behind them. And when it comes time for the team to do what it's got to do, positive energy wouldn't hurt. And maybe you could put yourself behind it, even if you don't agree with it, because many of you have put yourself behind things that you didn't agree with in the past.
Right.
So, and listen, I thank everybody for their opinions. I thank people for their support. And hopefully in the end we'll be able to say, we did this and this is the result, and regardless of it, we're pleased with it, and we're going to make it better, and we're going to go forward, and more people can be part of it. And if you know Jamie Cook or Chris Banks, they have never, ever, ever not welcomed an opinion.
Right.
But I would say to them especially, the Monday morning quarterbacking has been a little bit unfair, just for the simple fact that they took the lead, they took the reins. Anyone could have attempted that, and probably might have gotten the same opportunity.
Right.
So, again, we thank the people, and we hope they continue to keep their opinions coming, but we also hope that in the end they support the cause and the effort, and Team USA makes them proud one way or the other.
All right. Jay, thanks for your time.
It's my great
Appreciate it.
pleasure. Thank you, Chris. Continue the good work.